Well, let's just look at this prescription from the great physician. Lamentations 3:22, through the Lord's mercies we're not consumed, because his compassions fail not. They are new every morning. Great is your faithfulness. How did Jeremiah come to that conclusion? Well, before he wrote Lamentations, this was his life. Every day I find your word. Every day I eat your word. Every day I allow your word into my life, and your word transforms me, and I start having joy and rejoicing. Did you know people are watching us? People are looking for something different. And if they see a normal person that has joy and rejoicing, they're quite interested. And it's a great witnessing tool. But what's the key to it? Because I'm called by your name. You see, he said, I'm called by your name, O Lord of hosts. I identify with you. I am your servant. I have a devotion to you, and you're transforming me. Well, my question to you is, are you going to be rejoicing on the greatest day of your life? You and I are each going to be called before the Lord, one by one, 2 Corinthians 5:10 says. And we're going to look up, and Jesus is going to reduce down our life, everything we did, to what was done for his glory and honor. He calls it gold, silver, and precious stones. He's going to put our life through the fire, everything that was good for nothing. Not sin, because the sin's gone. We're blameless. But our life, what we spent our time on that wasn't sinful, which is the majority of our life. He's going to burn it up, refine it into that little pile of gold, silver, and precious stones. You know what Paul said? I'm going to rejoice in that day because I didn't run in vain. I held forth the word of life. I found God's word. I ate it. God became the joy and rejoicing in my life. For Paul, it worked in the prison. For Jeremiah, it worked what I just described. By the way, I want to just read this for you because I've already talked about the hymn. Did you know a modern Christian, that's his name, Thomas Obadiah Chisholm? He was born during the American Civil War. He died in the Kennedy administration. He was so sick that they let him go from his church. He was a pastor in Kentucky in America. And they let him go in 1917 from his church as a young pastor, and he went door to door selling brushes, Fuller brushes. If you ever heard of a Fuller brush man, that's what he was. Door-to-door salesman of kitchen supplies. Before he started his door-to-door work, he wrote a poem. It's a song in American hymn books. Living for Jesus, a life that is true, striving to please him in all that I do, this is the pathway of blessing for me. That was his 1917 poem that became a hymn. 6 years later, after going door to door and serving the Lord by supplying enough money to feed his family in rural Kentucky, he wrote a follow-up. This is his second poem. Great is thy faithfulness, O God my Father. There is no shadow of turning with thee. Thou changest not, thy compassions, they fail not. As you've been, you forever will be. Great is your faithfulness. Did you know it works? The gospel works. Did you know the world needs to see that it's working in your life and mine? How does that happen? By you and I living a life of rejoicing in God's faithfulness. Now, he's been faithful to Word of Life 50 years. But more importantly, he wants to be faithful in your life and mine as we go through life holding the Word of Life out to a needy world and looking forward to the day when we stand in front of the judgment seat of Christ and say, I spent my life finding your word, eating your word, and your word became inside of me the joy and rejoicing of my heart. Because the one thing the world can't take away from me is I'm called by your name, O Lord of hosts.